What's going on, everyone? So in this video here, in today's video, I want to talk with you about the web page automation goal. So some of you may have noticed it was released last December, and I had some issues with it right off the bat. It wasn't firing, it wasn't being achieved on every page load the way that I expected it to. And so I know that a lot of people kind of pumped the brakes and didn't really use it right away. But it's been a while now. It's been 6 or 8 months, and it seems to be working just fine. And if you're not using this goal yet, you're definitely missing out on some really key and powerful automation that you could be using for your business. So I'm going to build a campaign here, and then I'm going to show you some ninja things you can do to make that campaign even more efficient. Follow along. So the most obvious opportunity for using this web page automation goal, in my opinion, is it's for cart abandonment. So let's say you have a web page automation goal, and just so everyone's clear, this goal is designed to be achieved when somebody visits a page on your website that contains this code. Now, just to be clear, this tracking code here is the standard Infusionsoft web tracking code. So if you already have the Infusionsoft analytics code on your website, you don't need to install this. But if it's not on your website, or you're building a new landing page or something like that and you want to embed this code, you can just copy it right here. Now, the second thing you need to do is take the URL of the page you want to track. So let's say it's my OG membership, or more specifically, the OG membership order form, right? Let's say it's that page. Well, what you're going to do is go ahead and add that URL here. And when you press enter, it adds that down at the bottom, and you can keep a running list of all the different pages that this goal is listening for. Now, you can add multiple URLs if there's more than one page you want this goal to track, but for now, let's just do the one. So what I'm going to do here is follow up with anyone who visits my order form for the OG membership. So visits OG order form, right? And we're going to go ahead and put those folks into a sequence. So this will be my OG order follow-up, right? Or abandoned cart, or what have you. Now, of course, I don't want them to hang out in the sequence and get emails and have things follow up with them if they've already bought, right? So I need to put a purchase goal in here, listening for the purchase of that particular product. So for now, I'll just set it to any purchase, but you would set it up to whatever the goal of this page is. You want a corresponding goal listening for that particular purchase. Purchased OG membership, okay? So there we go. Now you need to decide, how do you plan to follow up with that person? And most frequently, you're going to send them an email, right? So you could do a task to call someone in here if it's an important product or a high-ticket item and you want to devote some man-hours to it. But the most common thing you're going to see people doing here is a follow-up. And I'm going to do actually a 20-minute delay, because if you visit that web page and it takes you more than 20 minutes to fill it out, I'm probably going to assume that you've gotten distracted or you've navigated away from that page, right? I am going to set this up to be during normal business hours. So for me, that's about 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. or so, using the contacts time zone only on weekdays. But obviously, you could adjust those timer settings to be any time of day. So regardless of when they're on that page, 20 minutes later they get a follow-up. You're gonna want to set that based on what you feel like your audience will respond best to. So this will be follow-up 1, and then I'm going to do that again. So if they're still in this sequence after a couple of days, I'm going to follow up with them a second time. So this one we're going to set to 2 days. And this time we'll do it at 8:15 a.m. and this will be follow-up number 2. And I'm going to use these emails. I'm not going to write them, but I'm going to use them to address common concerns, address questions people often have about this product, maybe share some case studies from people who have used it successfully, or testimonials from my current members, right? At this point, the people you're speaking to, have considered this product, but you also know they haven't yet purchased it. So that's where this window fits in their customer journey. So what we've got now is our web page automation goal, which is achieved whenever somebody who is cookied in Infusionsoft visits this order form. So the reason I emphasize getting cookied is because in order for this web tracking script to work, in order for it to fire, it needs to know who the person in Infusionsoft is that's visiting your website, right? So in order for Infusionsoft to make that connection, that contact needs to have clicked a link or filled out a form or done something previously saying, hey, here's who I am. This is my machine or my computer or my phone, right? So this goal is going to be achieved, and then immediately that contact will be added to this sequence. Now, they don't know that they're in that sequence, right? This contact doesn't know that they've been added to this follow-up. And if they go ahead and sign up, if they buy that membership, then they're going to be pulled out of this sequence before they ever knew that they were even there. So think of this, while it is an important element to your marketing, right, in a sales-specific way, think of this as your contingency plan, as your safety net, right? This is how you follow up with people who otherwise might have gone to this page and then, their kids pull them away, or they get distracted, or their internet goes down, or whatever, and they just never end up converting. So this is your safety net to follow up with all of those people. Now, I mentioned I was gonna do a couple things here with this campaign to make it a little bit more ninja. So one thing you might run into is people who visit this page and they get these follow-up emails and they don't buy, right? And so maybe they come back and they visit it a second time. So you might want to speak to them differently based on whether or not they've already experienced this follow-up, right? If they've already gotten those 2 emails, well, you don't need to send them those 2 emails every time they visit that page, right? So this would be follow-up 1. And then I'm gonna duplicate that, and I'm gonna create a separate follow-up experience, right? So this would be follow-up 2. So order form follow-up 2, and this would again, have different cadence or different language describing the product that I'm trying to promote to them in a different way, or framing it up differently, just so they're not receiving verbatim duplicate copies of an email they've already received. So then you need to configure this decision diamond. So in order to do that, we're going to put a tag in here. And that tag is going to indicate that they have already purchased, or that they have already seen these emails. So this would be, let's see, saw OG follow-up emails. There you go, create, and we'll add that to my test tags category, apply category, and save. And actually, what I should do is put that 20-minute delay timer in there, because I don't want them to get that tag unless they actually have received that email. So there we go. Now I've got that tag in place. The reason that tag is important is because you're going to use it in this decision diamond. So if they don't have that tag, they can go into this follow-up 1. So if the contacts tags doesn't contain, and we'll just say OG, saw OG follow-up emails, and then down here, if the contacts tags do contain that, well, if they already have that tag, that tells us that they have already been through that initial sequence of emails. So we don't need to send them through that top path again. This time we could send them through a different path, okay? So they're going to go through here the first time they achieve that goal. They're going to go through here the second time they achieve that goal. And if they purchase, well, then it pulls them out of either of those, right? Depending on which one they're in. Now, a different variation of this, right, would be, what are you going to do for contacts who visit that page but have already purchased, right? If they've already bought. And in that case, what I actually do is I just build an empty sequence, right, to give myself a decision diamond here, and I add a rule for if they don't have the purchased OG membership tag, let them go in here. But if they do have it, send them to the empty sequence. Because here's the thing, guys. Sometimes people visit pages on your website so that they can recommend it to someone else. And maybe it's a course that they've already bought. And so they're just tracking down that URL so they can share it with people for whom that product or service might be a good fit. So there's no need to have this goal trigger and follow up with the people if they already have purchased that course. But in order for us to have a decision diamond, you have to have 2 options. So that's why I introduce an empty sequence here, just to give me the ability to branch off people who may have achieved this goal after already having purchased. So hopefully that makes sense to you. It would require having a tag in place for anyone who purchased your OG membership or whatever your product is. But usually people use tags in that way anyway, so it would just be an extra step here to leverage it as a decision diamond. Now, the final thing I'm going to show you is kind of an additional hack or an additional way to think about these goals. Now, this goal is going to fire for any contact in your database who is already cookied and visits this web page, right? As soon as they visit that, they're going to go into here. Okay, so the reason that's important is because by default, this goal is an entry point. Any goal that doesn't have things before it means that it can be achieved by anyone in your database. So anyone can achieve this goal and they will be added to this campaign. But think about this. Let's say you're running a promotion, right? Let's say you're running a special to your blog subscribers, right? And so you want to offer them a discount code. And if they visit that order form, maybe you want to follow up with them and be like, hey, remember, here's that discount code. But you may not want that discount code to go to everyone. So in order to have this goal only be accessible for my blog subscribers, what I would do is add a sequence before the goal, right? And we'll just call this empty holding tank. And we'll go ahead and leave that as ready and empty. But what that actually does for us is it means that this goal is no longer an entry point. So just by the very nature of adding something before it, it means that this goal can only be achieved by people who are in this campaign somewhere. So all I would need to do is grab my blog subscribers and add them to this empty holding tank sequence. So they're going to sit in here. They're not going to experience anything because they don't know that they're in there, right? But just by the very nature of having them in this empty sequence, it means that this goal can only be achieved by people who I have put in this tank. So if you have an audience and you want that audience to get a special promotion and you want to follow up with them in this cart abandonment kind of way, well, what I suggest doing is adding a sequence before your goal, manually adding the group of people to whom you want this promotion to run to that sequence. And what you've effectively done is you've limited this goal so that it is only functioning for the select audience that you added to that particular sequence. Now, again, it's not super crazy. You're just using built-in Infusionsoft functionality, but it is a slightly different way of thinking about these goals, and hopefully it makes them a little bit more flexible in the ways that you could apply it throughout your business. Okay, so let me show you an example of how I use that in one of my live campaigns. So this campaign is promoting a new service that I launched not too long ago, the Social Recipes service. And as you can see, if they opt in using any of these landing pages, there's a nudge here in place that's waiting for them to buy. So if they opt in and then they purchase, they'll never get that nudge, right? But some people are going to view one of these pages and not even opt in. So down here, what I'm working with is a web page automation goal designed to listen for people who view one of these pages and then follow up with them, either encouraging them to buy or a few days later, if they don't buy, offering them a downsell. And of course, this sequence down here stops if they end up signing up for this service, okay? So the reason I want to call this out is because this goal is only available for people who are already in this campaign, okay? So by putting this sequence beforehand, there's nothing in this sequence, there's nobody in that sequence. What it actually does is it gives me the ability to call out this goal can be achieved by contacts who are in this campaign. So effectively, what that's doing for me is giving me a dynamic audience. So this goal is only listing for people who are in this campaign. So as I add new groups or as people sign up, right, this goal will continue to evolve the group that can achieve it, the group that's eligible to achieve it. Now, the second thing that I want to point out here is this decision diamond. So because some people might be in this campaign who have already purchased, you can see I've got my fulfillment piece in the same campaign. What I've done here is just added a branch. So if somebody achieves this goal and they have already purchased, they're going to go into this empty sequence rather than going into this nudge and downsell sequence. So that's all I wanted to show you here, was just a quick use case of how you might leverage the same trick for a dynamic audience rather than a static one. Now, the last thing I want you to consider, the last thing I want you to think about here with this video is that right now I'm demonstrating for a cart abandonment experience, right? Somebody visits your web page. If they don't buy, we follow up with them, and then once they buy, it stops, right? But those two actions, visiting your web page and making that purchase, those are just examples, right? You could set up this same structure for any two actions you want someone to take. So if you want someone to, visit your webinar page and then register for the webinar, or you want them to visit your free consultation page and then sign up for a free consultation or book an appointment, right? No matter what those two steps are, if it involves going to a page on your website, no matter what the action you want them to take is, you can follow up with them until they take that action. So think about that. I think that the most common and blanket example for this is cart abandonment, but I'm starting to see lots of opportunities in businesses for this goal to be useful, to save you time, and to add a layer to your marketing. So hopefully this brief video has given you some ideas for how you might build something today and how you might think about this goal and the various applications of it for any future projects you may have. Take care.